from the vault, high atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
This is Pete Sanchez. You're listening to Talking Catholic, the official podcast of the Catholic community of South Jersey. I'm with Mike Walsh here on a hot August day. Steamy. Yeah, it is pretty bad out there, Mike. But I had a really interesting conversation the other day. It was funny. I met up with the pastoral musician last Sunday, and I was just getting to know them. And they said he had 4 daughters, and you know what their names were? And a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4.
Don't laugh at that guess. Don't laugh at that joke. You're only going to encourage him.
Deserved a chuckle.
It is a topical joke, pastoral musicians.
You know what else I just realized?
What?
We went around and checked everybody's mics. Yeah, mine wasn't on.
We're missing your mellifluous voice?
Well, for that insult I threw at you, yeah, it didn't get picked up. But I'm not going to go back and re-record it. I'm very happy to live in my own mistakes.
Mike, you are a dream and a charm. You really are. You are a delight, as always.
You know, our guests were wondering how long the intro was going to go. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's going to be long.
Well, we'll see. We're just happy to be back. We're here in the vault for the first time in a while, right?
Yeah, can we not leave for a while? As I was re-establishing all the connections in here, it occurred to me that I don't want to leave the vault for a bit. Whoever our future guests are, they got to show up here. At least for a month.
Well, it was nice.
It was nice getting out, though.
Yeah, but it is nice to be back here. It's comfortable here. Good comforts of home.
Mm-hmm.
But we were... our last podcast was with the delightful... the community of Franciscan Sisters of the Renewal, or
not just
CFRs.
Delightful, wonderful,
they
awe-inspiring,
charming.
Yeah,
they were holy. I mean, these 4 women are doing great work in Atlantic City, and one of the things we talked about is the Light the Fire that they've put on the past 2 Fridays, July and August.
First Fridays,
yeah. And the next one is coming up, September 7th. I think it's September 7th. I do believe that is the 7th. And it's going to be in Atlantic City.
But no matter what, it's definitely going to be the first Friday in September.
Yeah, for September
irrespective
7th.
of the date. All right.
Yeah. This is going to be an evening of prayer music at St. Michael's Church, 10 North Mississippi Avenue in Atlantic City. There's going to be evening prayer music, and if you want to get more detail, just listen to the last podcast because they explain it in depth, and it's just such a great. I know you went. You can talk about it, Mike. Wasn't it? Can you just recap your experience?
It was great.
It was. No, it was.
No, it was. I mean, we had a big story about it in the Star Herald, and you were good enough you couldn't make it, but you interviewed the sisters after the fact and a couple of the participants, and it's really amazing. I mean, as the sisters were telling us last week, it's the most Catholic thing people can do, and yet when I was there, it struck me as the least Catholic thing I'd ever seen done ever, in the sense that us, 2,000 years in, we seem to have lost some of our evangelical muster for the rank and file of the Catholic faith. And there were these 50 people just blowing me away, just going out and talking to people in the streets. It was incredible. I really hope the head of Catholic Charities locally could attend ones. I think he'd really be impressed by the sisters and just seeing these people. It's amazing. No one that I know would be even more impacted being a part of that than Mr. Kevin Hickey. So hopefully he'll be able to see them someday. Go down.
Yeah, I don't know where he is.
Well, he's sitting across from us, but he can't talk, so I'm going to take the benefit of he can't respond to anything.
Not yet. He will have his piece, though. He will have his chance.
Nah, he's always nice on the air. He's not like me. He doesn't let his sarcasm out as frequently as I do.
So this I don't know where we go from there, Mike. But we just
I got a thought.
If
you're interested in learning more about it, go to camdendiocese.org/calendar to find out all the dates and deets for these and all the other events we're about to mention.
Did you say deets?
Details.
Okay. So yeah, this is okay. Just you heard it.
What do we have for older Catholics coming up?
Well, for nonagenarians, 90 years and beyond, and centenarians, 100 years and beyond, join us for a special mass to celebrate these special men and women. It's going to honor and celebrate those who've reached the milestones of 90 years or more of life. And this is going to be September 16th, starting at 3 p.m. Annunciation Church, St. Joachim Parish, 601 West Browning Road in Belmar, New Jersey. This will be fun, Mike. I actually just met somebody who knew somebody who just celebrated 100 years of life.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty, just a blessing. I mean, I'm lucky.
Yeah, I've been fortunate to have a couple of centenarians in my life, and they were up until the time they died. They were very lucid and active, and just great to be around. Yeah, you just learn so much of our own history I love being around older people. I really do. My
grandmother unfortunately passed away last year at the ripe old age of 103. Mm-hmm. And she just was a great lesson for me. And I had two other grandparents who made it to 90 and above.
That's good.
And more years, 90 and above, 90 and more. And so this is just, and this was held last year. It's just a beautiful, just come out to this again. It's in Belmar at St. Joachim Parish, Annunciation Church, starting Sunday, September 16th. It's at 3 p.m. Light reception and fellowship will follow. So RSVP by this September 2nd to Anne-Marie Perillo.
Hey, I just realized they were using one of my photos for their ad. That's nice. I like it when they do stuff like that. I'm sorry, that was a digression and a non sequitur, but
okay. Remember, Mike, pride goeth before the fall.
I have no pride. I just realized that they used one of my photographs without asking. That's nice too. But I know that's not true. I always give away all my photos. But Anne-Marie Perillo at CamdenDiocese.org, ANNEMARIE.PIRILLO at CamdenDiocese.org, or more importantly, go to CamdenDiocese.org/calendar to learn more.
Yeah.
So what do we have after that?
Well, we got I'm excited, Mike. We just booked actually a young woman to talk about this coming up soon.
Did we? Is that who that person was? I had no idea. You booked it and we never talked about it.
Yeah, we did. Anyway.
Did we? That doesn't sound like something I'd remember.
We had that. We had preliminary discussions.
We did? No.
Anyway, yeah, we're gonna talk more about it in a few weeks. But coming up on September 29th is the annual Diocesan Catechetical Convocation, and the title is Walk With Me. And this is for adult catechists. It's a one-day conference from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Paul VI High School in Haddonfield, New Jersey. It's a one-day conference for parish, school, college leaders, adult catechists, which include deacons, pastors, associates, school leaders, and also teen leaders who work with youth and young adults are invited to this. It's a day. It'll be a wonderful day, Mike. You and I think, have been a couple times.
No, actually, I've never made it to the catechetical convocation, which is annoying because I love that word. I think it's a great word, catechetical. I can't spell it. I can barely say it, but it's just there's a melody to it that I really like.
I was just gonna say it's very sing-songy.
It is. It's very nice. I like it.
It's almost like it could be a musical or something. Catechetical.
I don't know if I like it enough to go, but I definitely like the sound of it.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be, again, Saturday, September 29th, 9 to 4. And it's going to be a day full of dynamic national speakers, including Jesse Manibusan and Mike Patin. And there's going to be Service Project, assembling care packages for the needy. And it'll just be a good time. And what's neat, Mike, to our listeners, well, it's $65 per the individual, but if you're coming in a group of 5 or more, it's $50 per person. So this is really encouraged for parishes and schools to come out and to come to this. So go for more information at CamdenDiocese.org/calendar.
Yeah.
We have not blabbered on too long with this, right? The news. I don't know.
I think one of our guests will still be annoyed, but that's all right. We'll let the listeners decide what. Because there's one other event that's coming up, which they are very, very, very fond of. As he sneezes into our microphones,
God bless you.
I could have let that go, but I'm not gonna. The Justice for All dinner, which is the 15th anniversary of that dinner, is taking place on Thursday, October 4th, at Harrah's Atlantic City. Not Harrah's, at Resorts Atlantic City. My apologies. I'm gonna catch hell for that. Lovely Resorts in Atlantic City that they hosted it last year, and it was the first time we moved it there, and the response was stellar. So they were very happy to invite us back, and we're very happy to be back. So that event this year dovetails nicely into another initiative that I think we first brought to the listeners last fall, called Share the Journey. This national campaign that I have to say the Diocese of Camden, in particular, Catholic Charities of the Diocese of Camden, has really taken hold of, and in my limited perception, has done more with than any other diocese in the country. Much to the great work of Mr. Kevin Hickey, Ms. Mary McCusker, both former guests, and our first-time guest, Mr. Patrick Barry. So it's great to have all of you with us today.
Thanks so much.
It's a pleasure being here.
Okay, let's let Patrick talk first. Patrick, since the other two have been on before, Patrick, can you tell us a little bit about what your background is at Catholic Charities? Because you and I have interacted quite a bit over the years, but this is the first time on the podcast, much to my embarrassment.
Yes, so I am the Director of Refugee Immigration Services at Catholic Charities. I've been there since 2015, and as we can imagine, a lot has happened since 2015 regarding refugees and the well-being of immigrants.
Yeah, and you have the benefit of being one of the people who have gone down to the... Well, you know what? Let's not jump ahead too far, because I want to get back. I want to talk a little bit about the Share the Journey initiative itself. So, Mr. Hickey, would you be so kind as to sort of give us a background?
Sure, be happy to. Although I was eagerly anticipating a discussion of literature, which happened the last time I was here. Now, maybe that comes at the end of the podcast.
Your fellow guests, I don't know if they are well read enough to keep up with you.
I see. Okay.
But we could talk about Twitter and movies with them, maybe.
My ears just perked up with literature, though. I don't know.
All right. Well, we'll circle back, maybe.
What's a book?
That's the right answer. So
Mike, Share the Journey
yes.
was actually, I think it's fair to say, the brainchild of Pope Francis. And it kicked off in September of 2017. And in fact, our honoree at this year's annual dinner, Sister Norma Pimentel, was in the Vatican on hand in September of 2017 to kick this off. It comes, I think, inspired by the Pope's encyclical Evangelii Gaudium, where he's talking about going out to the peripheries. And, of course, we know immigration and migration is near and dear to his heart. And so the Share the Journey is specifically that group of people, which is estimated to be 60 million people around the globe on the move. So he's exhorting and summoning Catholics to share that journey. And we have had a relationship with Sister Norma, and she's the executive director of Catholic Charities of the lower Rio Grand Valley, which is the Diocese of Brownsville, Texas. We've had a relationship with her since 2014, and I've always wanted to conceive of a way of offering the people of the Diocese of Camden an opportunity to go down there so they could come face to face with this journey that people are undertaking.
And Mary, you've sort of been at the forefront of this initiative that Mr. Hickey's talking about. This actual pilgrimage down to the border. Which Catholic charities are you working with down in Texas?
We are currently working with the Diocese of Metuchen, and we're going down there to work with the Catholic Charities of the Rio Grand Valley.
Which is the Diocese of Brownsville?
Yes.
Okay, that's right. And the initiative itself, like, what is it? Like, so the pilgrimage, you got to do, you were actually in the first group of people that went down on the pilgrimage.
Right.
So, what is it? Like what do people go do? They just stand around?
Yes, that's exactly what they do.
No, actually, we've sent how many pilgrimages down now?
So far, there have been 4.
All right. And what's a typical pilgrimage look like?
I went down there at the end of January, and this was kind of a fact-finding mission to go down there to figure out, if we do send people from our diocese to the border and the communities around the border, what will they do? What will they experience? What do we hope they'll bring back with them? And a big component of this is how do they share the story? So we want them to share the journey, physically, mentally, spiritually, and then bring that back to our diocese and share the story with people who might not be able to go themselves. So when I first went down there with 3 of my colleagues, we had, I think the highlight was meeting Sister Norma herself, which was just so exciting to just see the woman behind all of this, and that the efforts that she has done to help immigrants who are all fleeing from Central America. They have gone through very tumultuous and unimaginably dangerous journeys to get to the border. And after they're held in detention facilities and they're processed, they come to a respite center, which she set up in 2014. And there they, I think for maybe the first time in their lives, and definitely for the first time in a very long time, are welcomed. And they experience what it's like to be treated like humans with dignity. So they have volunteers there. Some of them work there 7 days a week. Sister Norma was there. And so this respite center is a really important piece to all of this. So the people who have gone down, they volunteer at the respite center. They help people who haven't showered in weeks get a shower. They offer legal advice to people who want to stay in the country. They say, don't miss your court hearings. Don't take off your ankle bracelets, which they have to keep on. They just give them all the advice they can to avoid being deported. So that's one component. And I guess another goal of all of this is to meet with these communities in the Rio Grande Valley, which these communities are filled with immigrants, with people who have lived there their whole lives. It's a very vibrant community, and
I feel like the when you came up, there was something interesting you said, just talking about the people in the community. Mm-hmm. When you came back from that fact-finding mission, which was the people have lived there for hundreds of years. It's the border that keeps changing.
Right.
And then a number of American citizens, because of the way that the wall that does go through that general area, they actually live on the other side of the wall. But right. Because the wall couldn't have been built where the Rio Grande actually is, so they were essentially cut off, and they have like a special passcode to come through the wall, right?
So that's one of the classic examples of this whole learning experience. I hate to admit it, but I went down there thinking, I work at Catholic Charities. I work with people like Patrick. I work with immigrants. I think I understand this process. And I got down there to realize that it is 10 times more complicated and complex than I could have possibly imagined. And that's a classic example of that. I had no idea that there are large communities of people who are between the border wall and the Rio Grande River. So they kind of described it as living in no man's land. And this is something that most people don't know about, or maybe they do, and I was the only one who didn't. But, very interesting things like that you learn from just...
So wait, I'm sorry. I just want to do a compare and contrast as the person who went down on the fact-finding mission several months ago, now to Patrick, who you just came back on the last pilgrimage, right?
That's correct.
And so I'm curious, what Mary really was hoping that people were going to get a feel for while they were there, as we just heard her explained. Do you feel that the pilgrimage was successful in that regard?
Absolutely, because it is, the intersection of faith and action, right? We are literally welcoming the stranger. We are having an encounter. These are individuals that have made a very difficult decision in their lives. No one leaves home unless you have a reason to flee. And the individuals and the families that we saw migrate, that are seeking, asylum, who are immigrants, who are refugees, they are seeking a safe place for their family members. And the violence and despair that is before them, they recognize there is something that stirs inside of them where I have to go. And when you meet these families and you care for their child, as Mary had mentioned, where they're taking a few moments to gather themselves after a journey of several thousand miles, in many cases where they literally just walked, it is impactful. And the complexities of the border are far more apparent when you get there. And there is no simple story. However, being able to treat all individuals with just dignity is what was profound, because no matter the language, no matter what citizenship someone has, you understand the difficulties of that decision when, a mother is holding a 3-year-old child.
Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate circumstance that we find ourselves in, is that, I spoke with Sister Norma a little bit, and I had mentioned that right now we are acting as a bad physician. We're treating the ailments but not the disease. We just want to put a Band-Aid on something. We want to throw up a wall. We want to have a simple answer. But the reality is the world is far more complex. And as the world starts evolving, as, you can say the world is becoming more flat, those in despair will try and seek sanctuary where they can.
Mm-hmm.
And, we at Catholic Charities are doing the best that we can to welcome these individuals that have a right for safety.
I'm very curious. You're someone who's worked in the immigrant and refugee world for a long time, even in your young years, for a long time. I'm curious, having gone down there, did you find your eyes opened in any way? Were there things that you were unaware of that this brought to you as an expert in the field?
Yes. Something that kind of caught me off guard is the geography.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, I've never been to Texas. I've been to the airport, but I've never actually been to Texas. It's 100 degrees every day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's 99 degrees in the shade. There's not much greenery around. If you're walking 100 yards or 100 miles, it is arduous.
Yeah.
It is not something that is easy, is not something that is fun. If you have made that decision in your mind to travel the distance that many of these people are traveling, it's for a reason. Mm-hmm. And that geography of difficulty is not something, when you get to that border, you take lightly.
Yeah.
Because you just stand there and you see just land, you see emptiness. And yes, there is this border, but guess what? On the other side of that border, it's the same geography.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that heat and that sun that pounds you. There was a lot of people who, had some sunburn, sun-kissed, right? They're already tan, but, I spoke with people where I've been in the sun for days.
Yeah.
And I just need shade and I need comfort. And at the respite center, we were able to treat them and give them a little time to recuperate. By no means did we solve any issue with immigration, but once again, this is where faith and action meet, and we're fortunate to have that opportunity.
You're seeing not only individuals, you're seeing families, you're seeing all ages.
Correct. It's not a gender or a type of family. It is all types of families and all peoples of all ages. From infants to be carried by their mothers and fathers, And it's not like they're pulling up in a very nice car or anything. They're just a bag for which they are carrying their entire life, if that. And that's something that is kind of mistaken in the picture that is being painted, is that those who arrive do not arrive with much. They arrive based on faith and, the ambition to protect their family. And that's not something that you just put in a suitcase. That's the action of a father or a mother protecting their child and family and reaching the border.
It just makes me think, just remember you're talking about nothing but faith and little physical. Kevin and Mary, I think, know the story. With I'm in debt to Catholic Charities. My family is, because my dad's side of the family immigrated from Cuba with communism and Fidel Castro, and they came here with not much but faith, looking for a better life. And Catholic Charities in New York helped them out. So this has been on my heart these past few years with all this going on, and especially I'm so happy you guys are sending. You guys are helping out. I hope and pray for these people and the people, all the workers.
I'm curious, from the time you went down, Mary, to the time that you've gone down, Patrick, the politics of the situation has changed a bit. I'm curious, either Kevin, in your conversations with Sister Norma, as both being executive directors, or Patrick, in your most recent time down there, was there any mention of changes occurring? Like, are they seeing less people coming across? Are there less offerings? Has the mechanics of the respite center changed?
So I cannot speak in exact details of how many people are going through, but I can say that there's something special happening at the respite center. And what I mean by that is that Sister Norma and the individuals that work there are capturing the goodwill of extraordinary strangers. Mm-hmm. I mean, I met people that were volunteering from all over the country, not just in the neighborhood. There was people from Iowa, from Oklahoma, from everywhere across the United States. I met young people from Maryland University. And that is something that's significant, right? Is that there is action being done by unsung heroes to contribute to this conversation of what needs to be done, and they're doing it. And, on the last day that I was there, one of the more potent scenes was, let's say it's a group of Americans that are immigrants, I would say probably from Central Asia, probably of a different religion, came in with our group of Catholic Charities volunteers and had about 10 trays of food to serve these migrants. And it was a beautiful picture because you had, several different, nationalities and religions working together to serve the most vulnerable. And that's what we want to amplify at Catholic Charities and recognize this cause, this pilgrimage, in sharing the journey.
And Patrick, everything you just said about Sister Norma and her ability to attract people of all faiths together down here at the border, it speaks volumes to her presence and the way she is able to cooperate with Border Patrol, with ICE, with people who work at the detention facilities, with the federal government, with the local police department. When we spoke with them, they were very, very grateful to Sister Norma. And the way she is able to cooperate and to straddle, these, I guess what's become, a very polarized issue. She doesn't focus on the politics as much as recognizing that everybody is deserving of human dignity.
Mike, I just your question about the number of people coming has not abated, and Patrick was referencing and Mary too, the complexity of this situation. So this is not sustainable, and one has the impression that Guatemala and Honduras and Nicaragua are emptying out. And Sister Norma herself has met with the president of Guatemala, trying to, I think, exert her own special blessed pressure on the government in Guatemala to reform itself, to enforce laws, and build a more just society, which Patrick was talking about that. That's why people are coming here. And so the administration, when they were separating families, that was clearly oriented towards trying to deter people. And it hasn't worked. It wasn't deterring it. And I thought Patrick was really eloquent when he was talking about what drives people to undertake this journey. And I don't think we can imagine the fear that exists in these countries because of gangs, criminal elements, the lack of opportunity, knowing that your child might be condemned to a life with gangs, which then means a short life. So, I mean, clearly, as Patrick said, we're not solving the problem by going down there, but we are witnessing to it, and people can understand how complex this is, but also understand, as the Pope has said, these are people.
Is there so when there's been, you said 4 pilgrimages, and how many people have gone from our diocese totally? In total? 40. Okay.
Yes.
And Mike and I had we actually talked to, we were down in Stockton.
A couple of young adults, right,
yeah,
Peter?
we did.
Yeah.
Millennials, Kevin.
People that I would love to be able to do a video podcast with, Mary.
I'm working on it, Mike.
Okay.
I love millennials, Mary.
What's a podcast?
Oh, okay. Sorry, Patrick. We didn't explain that to you, so we're not.
This is what's happening.
And so I'm curious. Mary, you've been working here for 4 or 5 years.
2 years.
2 years, really?
It just feels that long. I know.
No,
That was me. I was here.
I thought, Mary, you've just reached that level of maturity that has come with, like, when somebody works for 5 years, they're kind of a certain way.
Pete,
you just
you're
have that maturity.
Pete.
There are so many insults I want to say right now. and I
Please
can't
go
say any of
on.
them.
Go
You
on.
comport yourself, Mary. You comport yourself very well. Is what I'm saying. You already seem like such a veteran here in South
Thank
Jersey.
you, Pete.
I mean it.
Well, if you listen to the first podcast ever recorded on Talking
no.
Catholic,
We
you will see just...
We can publicize that at any
No,
time, Mary.
no.
You got it. Tears were shed in that one. That was the test.
I was the
podcast.
guinea pig for Talking Catholic.
That's
But
right.
anyway,
So-
I'm sorry, Pete.
And we owe you a great deal of debt for that. Thank you.
Mary,
You're
yes,
welcome.
thank you. Many, many, many thanks. But I guess this could be for Kevin and Patrick too. But I'm just curious, for me, it's one thing to work here, and, Catholic Charities here does a lot of helping refugees, of course, through your work, Patrick, and, just helping the needy out. But when you go to a place, you were saying complex as the Respite Center in McAllen, Texas, I mean, what is that? Like, that must just open your worldview, open your eyes to, it's not just here in South Jersey. It's so much bigger.
You're absolutely right, and my experience at the border is, once again, just recognizing this unique opportunity that I have, where I can, open my heart and bring a little bit more gladness to the world. And that's significant, because no matter how small my impact to bring a smile to a child that has journeyed thousands of miles, not that child's fault. For the family to feel as though they are forced to flee, the least that I can do is welcome them. The least that I can do is treat them as a human being and to assure their safety, to provide comfort. And that small deed is an example that personifies the Catholic social teachings.
Peter, I think implied in your question is this the Catholic moral reasoning of see, judge, act. And so that's, built into this, I think, is the idea that people can go down there and see this And in some respects, it's representative of what's going on across Europe, across Asia, the whole world, as the Pope is recognized. So, and the question being asked of people is, what's your judgment about this? And the action we're asking is, when they come back, as Mary was talking, is to go to parishes and talk about it, to do social media about it, so we can help inform and transform everybody else as well.
That's what I love. The last trip Greg Coogan actually was on. He's a director of Youth Environment Ministry, friend of the podcast. He put up a lot of on social media. He was
Mr. Hickey, you're a friend of the podcast too.
To all of you are. I just mentioned Greg.
Well,
because
that's not
he's
true. Patrick, we're still holding out hope for, but we'll see.
He said it, Patrick. Remember, he said it, not me.
I'm taking notes.
Okay, good. If you need an extra pen, I got it. But Greg, awesome photos from that trip, and it's great what social media can do. And through Facebook, through Twitter, through Instagram, and so Greg went down with about Mary. You weren't down there, were you?
No.
Not with Greg's trip.
Greg's
he went
been there
down twice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pete, this I want to give a shout out to Bishop Sullivan. The reason why we're doing this is it's Bishop Sullivan, because Mike was there with me. I ventured this to him and said it was on my mind, and his response was, "Do it." And I think I've said to Greg Coogan that part of my own inspiration is listening to Bishop Sullivan and Greg Coogan talk about young people. And, of course, there's a synod for youth, I think, towards the end of this year.
In October, yeah.
October. And I just thought, this is a wonderful way of engaging younger people. And, young people we know are looking for heroes. And as Mary was talking about Sister Norma, that's a heroic figure. And, if we can help young Catholics meet heroic people, like the CFRs in Atlantic City.
It's so nice of you to say, Mr. Hickey.
Sister Norma, that's they won't ever forget those encounters too. So, anyways, I just wanted to salute Bishop Sullivan's leadership.
And it's great to see these young people and the older people who went to the way they come back from this. It's almost like they're on fire. They want to spread the word. They speak at parishes, at campuses, at schools, at young adult ministries, Hispanic ministries. They write. They've published articles in the paper. They do, like you said, all sorts of things on social media, but they're eager. This is my experience. This is what I took back with me, and just making others aware of that. But the enthusiasm, and I think, like Kevin said, this enthusiasm is inspired so much by Sister Norma, the volunteers there, people like Greg Coogan, Bishop Sullivan, of course, but just seeing that enthusiasm when they come back is so exciting. And I can't wait for her to come to New Jersey in October.
Well, that's a good segue. So she is coming in October to Atlantic City to the beautiful Justice for All dinner. I've been a few times. Kevin, Mr. Hickey, I apologize.
No, I apologize. I love the fact that Mary just referred to me as Kevin.
I know it's a rarity.
I like it. That's nice. Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah, she didn't like it. I get that. Anyways, Kevin Peter is my name.
Well,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes,
so
sir.
How long has the Justice for All dinner been going on in the diocese? How many years now?
This is our 15th dinner, Pete.
15th dinner.
Yeah.
Amazing. So how, and the proceeds go to helping the work of yourself and your group, or I don't know how to say it, the many men and women who work with you.
All the proceeds are used for direct assistance to poor people in the Diocese of Camden. And that's roughly 33,000 individual acts of love that are inspired by the generosity of donors, not only to the dinner, also to the House of Charity. But in this case, all the money we raise at the dinner goes for direct financial assistance. So it literally is bread from heaven. It's blessed money, and we use it wisely and use it for all manner of things. So it's a great event, Peter. And the church is, and God bless you, Mary. The church is in a very difficult time right now, obviously, with the news. And I think this event celebrates the church, all of us, religious, lay, acts of charity. We're obviously going to celebrate and honor Sister Norma Pimentel. That's on a big stage, but we're also recognizing acts of charity and justice that are done here in the diocese through the Disciples of Mercy. So it's a great celebratory night, and I'd really encourage people to come. It's just a lot of fun.
It really is. It's a great event, and it's only gotten better as the years have progressed. Last year was really.
We'll give a shout out to Mr. Walsh for his contributions to making the dinner even better. Thank you.
That is so kind of you to say.
Well,
but all I did was give it a little push. And you guys, listen, I do nothing compared to the great work that Catholic Charities does, and the volunteers and the staff. I'm merely a cog in the machine. But no, it is a great event, and it's a lot of fun, and it's great food. You meet great people. Not only is Sister Norma being recognized, but the Disciples of Mercy are being recognized, which are local Catholics in our area who are doing great work, which I think very soon are going to be announced in the Catholic Star Herald. I think in the next edition of the Catholic Star Herald. We do know who they are, and they are wonderful people. So you just have to stay and wait. We could have scooped it on the podcast, but no. Let the Catholic Star Herald have some news to share, right, Pete?
I agree.
Long live print.
That's right.
Can we get that
Paper
on a
forever.
T-shirt, please?
Long live print.
Long live print. Yeah,
Sure.
but we're talking about print on a podcast. Digital.
See, but the millennial doesn't realize that nobody can hear him if he doesn't have a microphone in front of his face. There we go.
All right, that was a good one, Mike.
Well
you got
played.
Mr. Barry speechless for
Well
once.
played.
Well played.
Well, Patrick is actually on the border between millennial and this other category, which I just read about, which is
the
what
Zennials? What?
the Zennials.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Which
think
is
I am too, 'cause
ridiculous,
that's what
and
Mike-
so are you, Pete. And I refuse
We're on
to
the-
hear anything about that.
It's people who don't want to be millennials but actually are, or they don't want to be Gen Xers and they actually are.
And they're called what again?
Zennials. They're in between millennials and Gen Xers, and all they are is old people. Honestly.
Basically, yeah, we've been paying taxes for a while.
That's right.
Amen.
Yeah, we're the generation that it knows what a VHS tape is, and we also know what that sound, which is the early stages of 56K modem. The
right.
AOL.
The AOL.
Yeah.
The AOL
Yeah.
sound.
When you turn on the internet, it made a sound,
That's right.
and
And
that I was there for it. Yeah,
And we remember when the first Blockbuster opened,
that's right.
right down the corner.
Yeah.
There's one left. There's
All
one
right.
Blockbuster
Just so you know,
left.
all these things mean that you're actually Gen Xers. You don't. It's okay. I embrace you. I'm a Gen Xer. You guys can be part of the crowd.
I don't know what these letters have to do with anything about me. I'm a Gemini.
Capricorn right here.
That's right.
Anybody else Capricorns in the
Disturbing.
room?
Mr. Hickey is just like, where am I? Why do I have to be here?
I think we just brought in astrological signs, Patrick. I don't know, to a Catholic
That's
podcast.
not very Catholic.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
That'd be my
that's not
observation.
really, the less said about that. I don't know. This could be my last podcast.
No, there's so many better reasons to get rid of you. Don't worry about it. That comment isn't
Oh
the
dear,
reason
thank
why.
God.
So, moving forward, the share as far as the pilgrimages down to is that considered East Texas or West Texas? I'm not sure.
Well, it's southeastern Texas,
south, yeah.
but
Okay.
we usually refer to it as South Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought all of Texas was South Texas, but once again, I'm from Jersey, so what do I know?
Yes, that would be.
Having a person here who's a Midwesterner and a person here whose family hails from nowhere around here,
Well, yeah.
still not a mic in front of your face. It's like,
He's projecting.
that's right. You can talk about your family history. Go ahead.
No,
It's interesting. It's one of the
It's
interesting parts.
a great
Yeah,
history.
We love your family history.
Mike, can I just say, Patrick is an example. If you don't mind me saying this, I've said it before in front of him. Patrick is an example of what immigration does for the United States of America.
That's an excellent point.
So, yes, my secret is I was born in Philadelphia, but my mother was a refugee that arrived in the United States from Cambodia, and my father's American Irish Catholic descent. And, after my mom arrived, a couple years later, they got married, and I was born, and I've been fortunate enough to kind of pay it forward with the next generation of refugee and immigrants that are arriving in the United States.
Patrick's very bright, astute, well-read. I'd say that, even though I'm not sure he reads books, but he reads them online, maybe?
A little bit of both. Depends on what's on sale.
There's always a movie about the book. Don't worry about it.
And he's a great leader, too. Very admired by his colleagues at Catholic Charities. So
that is true. I haven't heard anything negative about Patrick, which is off-putting.
Now is when we should end the podcast, right? This is...
Drop the mic.
That's right. I'm out.
I want to inspire people to tweet in and go, I got some stories about Patrick.
Yeah, true story.
That SOB. Yeah.
No, Patrick, all
yes, sob stories.
All these stuff. I was excited to meet you in the elevator to introduce myself because I've seen you around, and everybody who I've talked to just has wonderful things to say about you.
That's very kind of you.
Felt like I was meeting a rock star, honestly, in the elevator.
Oh,
look at that!
Right,
I like this guy.
All right, Pete.
Yeah. Now we end the podcast.
No way, we did not get to the literature yet.
Oh yes,
Oh.
yeah. I really want to talk about George Eliot. And
wait a second, are we talking about Mary Ann Evans?
Yeah.
Because that's
Mr.
one of
Barry.
my favorite poems, "The Choir Invisible." You can't go wrong with that.
The choir I do not know that one.
Yeah, and I actually kind of made a little small reference when I said I'd like to bring gladness to the world. It's actually a part of one of the stanzas from her famous poem. It's funny because
Just proving my point. He's very well read.
This is I can't believe that.
And this wasn't planned.
I can tell.
Pretty cool. The Choir Invisible by Mary Ann Evans.
George Eliot. is the author.
Okay.
But her real name was
Mary Ann Evans.
What? Okay.
So
That's
to get published during that time frame, you would have to have a male.
exactly.
name.
No, I knew George Eliot was female. I didn't know
Yeah.
his her real name.
It's the only question I got right on Jeopardy in the past 10 years.
Wow.
No one was a witness to it except for me.
Which makes it believable, actually.
Yeah. I'm at like minus 1.5 million in that show, except for the George Eliot question.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, Pete, did you have any literature topics? We haven't done a sort of a lighthearted ending to a show in quite some time because they've all been with such great and impressive people. We've just never been able to get to the light stuff. So.
Well, I mean, we're almost at the end of summer. Can we, Mike? What? Any summer reading?
No, I
you?
didn't.
No?
I didn't read a thing.
No, I'm excited. Can I?
Wait, that's not
This
true.
is my-
I did read something. I read one chapter of a book I started last summer. That I
This
never.
is the director of communications.
That's right. I'm a guy who writes for a living, and it was called Physics for Future Presidents, and it was all about. It was about, okay, these are the things you see in the headlines that sound like they're going to scare you to death, but these are the things you really need to be scared to death of. Like, by comparison, you don't need to be scared of a dirty bomb compared to a release of a biological weapon. The biological weapon would be far worse than a dirty bomb in the middle of a city. Because a dirty bomb in the middle of a city would really only affect like a couple of square blocks. Whereas some sort of communicable disease that was released into the atmosphere or water supply could wipe out millions. Or nuclear energy versus coal and things like that. That nuclear energy is actually the least thing or is actually one of the most safe forms from a physics perspective, not from a from a national security perspective or anything like that. But from a physics perspective, nuclear energy is actually extremely safe, where there are all other forms of energy that are very
Not
very
exactly
dangerous.
summer reading, is it?
And it's not exactly light either.
For me, it was
He's a very serious guy.
It was no, but it was. I can't read fiction. I find like I start reading fiction and like it's boring. You know, I leave that for Marvel movies and stuff like
I
that.
was just saying, Mike, you got in the zone there.
Which zone?
You just the way
The
you were
danger
talking
zone? about
that.
Oh,
No, just the way you were talking
danger
about
zone.
that book. You just totally got passionate about that.
Which is amazing because I read I read like probably 6 chapters last year, and then I got 1 chapter in this year, and I haven't gotten back to it again. I planned on reading more of it on Saturday. I brought it with me. Oh, well, yeah, I was getting my oil changed, and I planned on but instead of
to read books.
But instead of that, I ended up listening to podcasts and reading Twitter instead, which were still useful. I got some good stuff out of it, but
Well, there's a great podcast on. It's funny you're talking about podcasts.
it's called Talking Catholic.
No, well, there's one. It's funny. I was.
Oh, what do you mean no?
I was
You
talking
mean
about
no
another
in addition
podcast.
to?
In addition to.
Okay.
No, just talking about how passionate you are. There's a podcast I've been listening to on passions, where people talk about their favorite things. And actually, it's interesting. A lot of the guests talk about how they love crossword puzzles, and I've been trying to get into that more.
Doing crossword puzzles?
Yeah, it's just fascinating. But with summer reading, I'm excited. I just picked up this official biography on Neil Armstrong.
Oh, really?
Called First Man.
Yeah. He didn't go to the moon, you know. It was all staged.
Okay, we're gonna have this conversation.
And by the way,
afterwards.
you made Patrick, you had such a passionate piece going, and you were talking about how the world is sort of evolving, and you had mentioned that there's a flattening of the earth, and I so wanted to make a flat earthers comment, but it was such a beautiful couple of sentences you had strung together. I was like, I can't ruin it with sarcasm. I was so depressed the whole time here.
But I thought the world was flat.
Oh, oops. My bad.
So wait,
Okay. I love flat earthers. They're my favorite. The flat earther I like the most is the guy who built his own rocket so he could go up into the atmosphere and prove to everyone else that it was flat. And I was like, you know what? He's wrong, but at least he's trying.
Yeah, that's impressive.
I was like, I was very impressed by that guy.
Yeah, that sounds like a project.
Yeah. He almost died, but he really went up. It was incredible.
wow, we just veered off course there.
I was on course. I was talking about physics and science. I'm
yeah.
I have
do
a
think-
recommendation for a future podcast. Excuse me, Peter.
No, you're good, Mr. Hickey.
Well, how about something on the Catholic imagination?
I'm all for that.
All
like,
right.
in
Did you
terms
have
of,
it?
what do you mean by that?
Yeah. Did
That's-
you have any imaginative Catholics in mind?
Oh, yeah. There's, yeah. Well, one of them is you, Michael.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm not that imaginative.
Well, anyways, I would like. I don't really fully.
I'm derivative.
Understand that, but I've read some about it, and so I'm intrigued by it, and maybe your listeners would enjoy that.
Kevin, if you put together a couple of ideas of people we could put on the podcast, I would absolutely record that podcast.
Okay.
Now,
great.
when you talk about that, the Catholic imagination, you mean in terms of writers who've, like Catholic thought, who put ideas down, like Tolkien, I've heard. In those conversations, I think Tolkien's name, Lewis.
Or you mean like
so-
modern day Catholic
Or modern
innovators?
day.
I mean something that maybe is timeless, and again, I don't fully grasp it. But one way I think I experience it is, and Alice, my wife, and I, we talk about this. We can usually tell someone's a Catholic
Really?
before they even say they're Catholic.
Wow.
And it's how they speak, maybe what they're talking about.
But you have a sixth sense about people, more so than anyone I've ever met. I think more than I've ever met. I'm pretty empathic, but you understand a person's spirituality better than anyone I've ever met before.
Oh, well,
And I
maybe
mean,
it's part of this Catholic imagination.
maybe you're imagining that they have good spirits. I don't know, but I've seen it in the people you bring into your staff and the people you surround yourself with, and it's I don't know. I'm gonna start calling you the Catholic Whisperer. So you have this ability about you.
All right.
Well, you found McCusker out of the rubble. So it was and Patrick Barry. I don't know where you picked him up at, but here are two excellent examples of
Down by the river.
Living in a van down by the river.
You know, Patrick, I want to compliment you. I loved your expression, geography of difficulty. Was that what you said?
I think so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I thought that captured
We'll play it back.
what I imagine it's like down
Absolutely.
there.
It's the border is singular. It's just a border, but there is distance before you reach that physical physical moment.
You know, I was very happy to hear you say that, because I had asked that question after the fact-finding group came back, and they weren't able to sort of articulate it nearly as well as you explained it. And I was curious about that, and so thank you for that. That was great.
And
Apparently, the 4 you didn't find the.
Nope.
Yeah, really. Interesting.
They left me wanting more. I started with, is it green or brown? They didn't do a good job explaining it. But
boy.
Patrick, you painted the
that was
picture
really-
perfectly.
yeah. This is
I had a layover, so I had time.
So you had time to think about it? Okay, that's good. All right. So, so as we started to wrap up, you wanted to talk about books. Did you have a summer read that you enjoyed this summer?
Well, I did talk about First Man, but I am reading.
Oh, that's right. You did.
What can I say? This.
You can stop there. You can stop that you read First Man.
No, well, I'm about to read it. I've not read it yet. But actually, one of the best books I've read was called The Boat Builder. It's a fiction piece.
What's it about?
It is about this guy who's
Builds a boat.
Well, the boat builder refers to like a master. The main character is this guy who was addicted to drugs, and he's aimless. And what he does is he meets this boat builder. They just call him the boat builder. He's like a wizard. And it's all about the idea of how making things with your hands can restore your soul.
You said he's a wizard. Are you using that literally or figuratively?
No, figuratively, because he's just a master at his craft.
Oh.
And it's actually a beautiful book. And there's
sounds good.
and another one actually called Shop Class for Soulcraft. That's another one, kind of on that main theme about how we've gotten so far away from woodworking, from making stuff with our hands, how, fixing cars, fixing bicycles. That is kind of, that utilitarian kind of work.
No, that's great. And ruined completely by the two millennials in the group, or the faux millennial and the real millennial, taking a selfie while you were talking about this incredible book.
Pixar, it didn't happen.
We just wanted to document this moment.
Well,
you're absolutely right. I was building a trailer, or adding to a trailer this summer, and I was thinking that it was the first time I had done anything with my hands in quite a while. I love building stuff. I have an entire woodshed full of tools and apparati for making things, and I never venture in there unless I have something I have to put together. And thankfully, I had a project, and I was able. And I felt so great doing it.
Sounds like another fun podcast to talk about that kind of how
I like it.
in spirituality and just getting back to the earth, kind of.
Yeah.
know?
Particularly if we can use power tools.
Mike, I was going to say first ever podcast in your wood shop. We've been in your house.
Can we
now
wait
can
till
go
fall
back.
when it's a little cooler out? It's a little warm in there
Yeah,
right
it was
now.
a little warm, but we did not get. I don't think we got summer reading from.
That's because
our
the two of
three
us won't
guests.
shut up.
No, well, these three guests.
Let's move to Mr. Hickey as the other.
Well, I since Patrick and I were talking about George Eliot, I decided I wanted to read Middlemarch, and now I have started it. My goal was to finish it by Labor Day. I do not believe I'm going to make it because it's 700 plus pages, and I'm at about 105. But I read Silas Marner. I reread Silas Marner. Really good book. I liked it, and very descriptive of the human condition, and chasing or placing value on things that aren't lasting. So that's a good book. So
this is why Mr. Hickey and I don't go out drinking together, because I can't keep up with the conversation. He was far too well educated.
We've been out and had a few beers.
We have, but all we can joke about is all I can do is joke about and make fun of things. You start talking
that
about
well.
Yes, but you start talking about something seriously, and I'm like, I'm out of my league. I got to make fun of something. All right, Mary, what did you read other than Twitter and Instagram and all the other thing that millennials are doing.
I feel like I already answered this question in one of the other podcasts. Wait, are we doing summer reading or
summer.
favorite
Summer
book?
reading.
No, over
Summer
the
reading.
summer.
Oh, okay.
Have you read anything this summer?
Yes. I read Power and the Glory, which was something that was assigned in high school, and I spark noted all of it, and I don't know that I ever actually read it back in high school.
I don't even know what that means.
Spark noted.
Spark Notes.
Is it like Cliff Notes?
It's an online summary that cheaters use when they don't feel like reading
That's
the book.
what you use instead of reading.
Yes.
Did you spark note it this time, or you spark noted it originally?
In high school, I
No,
spark
I'm
noted
just trying
it,
to clarify.
but now I gave it a thorough read and actually read it a second time.
The
And
summer?
it's a very yes.
You read it twice this summer?
I read it again this summer.
Oh, okay.
But I read it earlier this year.
Wow. It's a good book.
And it's. You said you never read it.
No, it must be a good book because you read it twice in one year. I
yes.
haven't reread a book. Like I'll rewatch movies and whatnot, but I haven't reread a book since
I mean,
high
it's
school probably.
horribly depressing on one hand, but I don't think I've ever read something that depicts human suffering the way that book does. It's
That's good.
short. It's really good. And then I just started another one called The Fool's Progress by Edward Abbey, and I love it so far. It's kind of dark humor, but I'm only a few chapters in, so
Well,
I'm excited for
we
that.
look forward to the next time we do summer reading and we can hear about it.
And,
Yes.
and Graham Greene. Just like that.
He's
he
an
wrote
interesting
Power and
guy. Yeah.
Glory. Yeah, I've read parts of it. I've never finished it, but I think I actually own that book.
It's
I just
really,
haven't
really
gotten
good.
around. Okay.
Is he the actor Graham Greene, or is there a writer named Graham Greene?
There's
There's
an
a-
actor?
Good Catholic writer.
Yeah.
by
Oh,
the way.
okay.
Yeah,
All
he's written a few other books. That one, and I can't remember what he's written another famous one.
Istanbul Train. Honorary Council.
That's why
Right.
That's why we can't go out.
Brighton Rock, I think is the name of it. And my favorite Graham Greene is somehow he developed a friendship with the Panamanian dictator. I'm blocking his name now. Not Noriega.
That's one.
It was before Noriega. I'm sorry, I can't remember. And anyways, it's a very tiny little book, but it's all about how this dictator would call him up and say, I want you to come visit me.
Mm-hmm.
So Graham Greene would fly
Wow.
from London and go to Panama to visit this guy.
Wow.
It was kind of inexplicable, but sort of
Okay, that book I can read. I'll read that. That sounds interesting.
Yeah,
And it's short. I'm good.
that's right.
So, Patrick, what have you read aside from, once again, Twitter and Facebook?
Yes,
The
of course.
Snapchats.
The book I'm actually reading right now, I'm finishing up, is called
Did you have to
Originals.
look it up on your phone?
Well, I can't remember the name of the author.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to make sure.
Are you reading it on your phone?
No.
Are you reading it on paper?
Yes and no. The girlfriend has the book, and I have the digital version, so I do both.
Oh, okay. Well, that seems ridiculous. but all right.
Yeah. So the book is called The Originals, and it's how nonconformists move the world, and it's really
I've heard of that
fascinating.
book.
It's worthwhile because it talks about how original ideas rise to the top, and how sometimes just because you have a good idea, that in itself is not enough, and how do you kind of nurture that idea and figure out a way to implement that. And it's really fascinating because it adds a lot of history to very successful movements, such as the civil rights, the suffrage movement, and it's how these ideas are created and how you are able to make policy.
Yeah.
And it's really fascinating because there's a lot of examples that are reflective today of how there is a movement.
Mm-hmm.
How do you capture it and make change that way? And then, and then the other book that I'm revisiting is called The Warmth of Other Suns, and that's such a good book. It's about migration, about African Americans after World War One.
Mm-hmm.
And I always like books about migration. Obviously, I'm involved in refugee work and immigrants. So I'm always fascinated how people make that great leap of faith to find a new life, because before today, you had to take a leap of faith to travel hundreds of miles somewhere from the south to the north. Now you have a phone, you're in the middle of your farm or in the jungle, and you're like, you know what? Yeah, that place looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really good here where I'm at. I'm just going to start walking,
Yeah.
right? And there's an actual picture, and there's GPS.
Mm-hmm.
But as little as 80 years ago, the United States had changed geographically significantly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fascinating to me. And it just shows it's a part of American history that this book in particular, I think, should, going back to high school reading, I think it should be mandatory. Kind of like the book Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee is to the history of American Indians, and how I read that in high school, and it just blew me away.
Yeah.
Because, we as human beings, we move, and we have been moving for a very long time, and no blood right has absolution for this piece of soil.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really fascinating. So
No, that sounds wonderful. I'd expect nothing less from you, Patrick. Thank you.
Who wrote the originals? Is that Gladwell?
Oh, sure. He puts his phone down.
it's not Gladwell, but Gladwell actually recommended it.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, and I think it's Adam Grant.
Adam Grant. Okay.
I hope it's Adam Grant. I'm not too familiar with his work,
Okay.
but the book is exceptional. The originals. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Well, thank you three for joining us.
Thank you.
Just to
Pleasure
give
being here.
one last promotion to the two things, the initiative and the Justice for All
Justice
dinner.
for All.
What are the dates and deets for Justice for All?
The
Mary?
15th annual Justice for All dinner will be held on October 4th, Thursday, October 4th at 5:30 p.m. at Resorts Hotel, where we will be honoring Sister Norma Pimentel and the 5 Disciples of Mercy. It'll be a wonderful evening, invigorating and inspiring, especially during kind of dark times like these. So
I would
I'd
agree.
encourage all to attend.
And Sister Norma is anyone who sits and listens to her, you will be inspired and amazed.
Absolutely.
So she is a great advocate for everything we as Catholics should be upholding. And the Share the Journey initiative, Mr. Hickey?
It continues. So when the Pope announced it, he charted its course from September of 2017 to November of this year. Of 2019. Mm-hmm. So it's going to continue. And we here in the diocese will continue pilgrimages going down there. The best way to keep track of those is the Catholic Charities website, which is catholiccharitiescamden.org. We're sort of putting them together as capacity exists in South Texas to handle it. So,
And are you also looking for donations to help defray costs?
we would very much love to, thank you, Michael, for bringing that up. Yes, donations would be very helpful.
Okay.
And we have, through some foundations, have put in specific requests for funding. But, we just got a $100 donation from a person in West Orange, so not even this diocese.
Wow.
It said, I heard about your initiative. I'd like to support it. Here's $100. So that was really kind. Yeah.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
I love to hear that.
Yeah.
And Pete, as I was Facebook living the podcast, someone commented on the Facebook Live post that you and I really need to do something with the vault. They seem to be very upset with the fact that where we still have lots of boxes in here, and I have to defend Pete. Pete, for the last several weeks, has been working hard to make sure.
Progress.
Yes, it does. It's still a mess because it's still a vault, and we have stuff in it that I can't move. But Pete has actually been doing a great job. Unfortunately, the camera angles did not capture any of the stuff he's put up lately. But we will continue to make progress in making
Should
this.
get him a Share the Journey poster, Mary.
Sure, just don't give me a Share the Journey T-shirt until the second batch is made. That's an inside joke, folks. Don't worry about it.
Okay, well, hopefully one of these walls, Mike.
We'll fall in.
Well,
I got nothing.
No.
Jeez. Anyway,
That's the way I am.
one of the walls we need to make a giant picture wall of every guest.
Yeah. Well.
That would be great.
I do have pictures of every guest, so we could do that.
Yeah,
That
we
would
could
not be
totally
a
get like
nice collage.
And if anybody has any other ideas about what we could put in the vault, how to decorate it, please let us know. And go to iTunes and give us 5 stars so we can better reach others.
And share us and let people know and comment on social media. And it's Talking Catholic everywhere. And join us again next week. But thank you to our 3 guests for coming in on this hot Tuesday afternoon. And to our listeners, thanks for listening, and we'll chat with you soon.
Thanks, everybody.